Good morning. It's the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10, you know the drill, Twitter handle. And I'm joined today by Alison McConnell. How are you, Alison?
Very well, thanks, Tony.
Calm before the storm. Countdown's on to the big day at Hampden on Sunday. You looking forward to it, Alison?
Yeah, it's a big game. It's a big weekend. You've got Hearts and Hibs on Saturday too, and then obviously Celtic and Rangers on Sunday. It's getting to the exciting end of the season where you just see the destination of where trophies are going, and I think Celtic very much are the team who have worked up a head of steam at the minute, just going into the last few weeks of the campaign, and I think what's palpable about the squad just now is just the confidence and the assurance that they're playing with.
It's two wonderful derbies to look forward to, Alison, isn't it? And kind of showcase Scottish football, and we hope that it's showcased for all the right reasons, but I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. I couldn't believe that stat that apparently the four teams has never met at the semi-final stage before, given all the years that have gone by. So it's quite a unique weekend, and one to enjoy. I'm sure there'll be plenty of talking points that come out of both.
Now, we love stats and looking through the history books, Alison, and compare and contrast exercises and stuff like that. And there's no getting away from it that on Sunday, Ange Postecoglou takes his team trying to take a step closer to the treble. And Martin O'Neill won the treble in his first season, and Chris Sutton came out and said that it would be a better treble if Ange Postecoglou's team won it than that team. Is that something you can curb with, or is that just something that kind of moves and shifts with time?
Yeah. I think you can draw parallels between both campaigns. I think when you look at what both managers inherited, big, huge chasms. Ange Postecoglou walked into a team who'd lost the title with 25 points. Martin O'Neill walked into, was it 21 points?
21 points he'd lost it,
the dressing room myths and everything that was how he introduced himself to the Celtic squad. By assembling them all, drawing them in together, introducing themselves, and being quite curt about that 21 point gap chasm before turning on his heels and walking out. I think you can draw parallels in terms of the perception was it was a fairly substantial rebuilding exercise. I think both kept the spine and inherited crucial players. So I think like where Martin O'Neill might have with Paul Lambert and Stelian Petrov, Ange Postecoglou who'd Callum McGregor, players that have stayed and helped to form the spine of a new side. I'm not sure Ange Postecoglou quite had the same finances that Martin O'Neill did that summer to go and rebuild. And I think if you were comparing like for like, you would struggle to say, that Celtic last summer could have afforded a player in the bracket of a Chris Sutton, who'd been a British transfer record fairly recently before that, or even a John Hartson, even a Neil Lennon, like the kind of wages that now would just be prohibitive for Celtic if you were looking at clubs of that ilk. So, there are similarities to be drawn, albeit that it comes at a very different stage of finances in the game.
The reason I mention that is because I've written a column today on the website, kind of compare and contrast in the kind of two eras and stuff like that. And as you can see along the bottom, if you want to subscribe to the Celtic Way, you can for £1 for 2 months. You can read that article and other articles that Alison has written and many other contributors and lots of decent stuff. You just log on to www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, and you can also be in with a chance of winning a £100 gift card as well. So that's www. You can see it along the bottom there, .celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And you can read that column about Martin O'Neill and Ange Postecoglou and my thoughts on it, because Alison, that was the first Celtic team in my supporting life that won the treble. My father told me all about it, but that was the first time I'd ever got to see it, and kind of life felt wonderful at that moment. That was the kind of reason I wrote it,
Yeah, because it's been 32 years, I think, the last time.
9 was the last one, wasn't it? Steen's team, I believe. Is that right?
Whereas what you have now is a generation who have been completely spoiled by. But just to give that as context, I think people would look and see, it's just impossible to imagine. It's like difficult to appreciate when you think of like the quadruple treble and things like that. Like just how rare winning a treble actually was. So,
Yeah.
there's definitely been a whole generation that have been spoiled by it.
It would be Celtic's 8th if they get this over the line, treble in their history. But conversely, it would be their 5th in 6 years. So that tells you that sums up the kind of domination of Celtic during this period. Also.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just when you count up the trophies over the last, even over the last decade, I think it's been a period of unparalleled dominance. I think you look at last term and you look at the chaos of that, but I think Celtic have recovered very swiftly at a stage where I think maybe people suspected they might need more time to do so. And I think if you'd gone back to even October, November and suggested that Celtic were probably going to be on course for a treble or be in with a shout of a treble, I think Celtic fans and I think the club would have bitten your hand off for it.
Now, when Ange Postecoglou was unveiled, he said he wanted to play football that got everybody talking, Alison. I think everybody was talking about last week and in the football that Celtic have been playing so far this season, last week reaching a kind of a peak.
Yeah, I think it showcased the full philosophy that he's brought to Celtic, that we don't stop and this relentless attacking surge of football. I think that's what it really brought into focus, just like the aggression about Celtic, the thirst to keep going, to keep pushing, to keep going for goals. I think, it would have been an enjoyable afternoon. I think from St Johnstone's perspective, it's a bruising day to come out in the back of. I think when you meet Celtic when they're in full pelt like that, they can be very, very difficult to live with. And I think St Johnstone felt the full force of that philosophy on Saturday. And I think when Celtic hit their stride like that in an attacking sense, I think they're very difficult to live with.
Now, Sunday, if they play anything like that, Alison, can you see them triumphing on Sunday? Is Hampden something that's built for that kind of football?
I think it is. Well, in many respects, yes. One, it's an open, expansive park, and I think that it will be a very open game. I think Rangers will commit to going and trying to prevent Celtic winning this. I think, essentially, like, Rangers' season could well hinge on this result. Their domestic season could well hinge on this result if, as it looks just now, that Celtic are on course for a title. But I think much might depend on what happens this evening in the Europa League. I think if Rangers were to win and progress into the semi-final, I think it's inevitable that you draw a substantial amount of confidence from that you take a spring in your step towards Hampden. Your chest is puffed out a bit. You're in the semi-final of a European competition. And I think that just lends itself to a belief in it within the squad, whereas the flip side of that is that I think if you go out, all of a sudden there's tremendous pressure then on Rangers on the outcome of Sunday's game, because the domestic season essentially rests on Sunday's performance and Sunday's outcome.
Now, Andrew's taken his team there. Alison's already been there twice and he's won twice. He's setting some kind of standard here and some high bar, isn't he?
Yeah, he certainly has. I mean, I think he'll have good memories so far of Hampden. He did the semi-final and then he did the final. The final was maybe a bit more nervy in the latter stages than they might have liked, but I'm sure he'll have he's got fairly positive memories of Hampden. And as a squad, Celtic have players in there crucially too. I'm thinking of James Forrest and Callum McGregor and even Greg Taylor, who have been over the course before and who know what it is to go to Hampden and to win, and to go to Hampden and to play in a game of this magnitude, because it'll be different on Sunday from previous games, because you have a 50-50 split now, of course, in the stadium in terms of tickets. So I think that creates a very different atmosphere too. And I think having players there who can negotiate that and who have experience of it, I think helps too.
Does it help the fact that Celtic have been there twice, Alison, and they won the semi-final against St Johnstone, have already won a trophy at Hampden? Does that help the players on Sunday, or does that have no bearing at all on Sunday?
I'm not sure it has any substantial bearing. I think I think probably as a player you take games on individual merit, and I think the focus ahead of Sunday will be very much on the game itself, and I think there'll be an energy in the atmosphere. I think there'll be a particular kind of crackle, if you like. I think sometimes you get that when you have a full stadium and you've got both fans represented. I think it does create a particular kind of atmosphere, and the fact that so much essentially rests on this game, for Celtic. If they come out of this one and have progressed to the final, I think the possibility of a treble will feel very real and very plausible, and that's no disrespect to Hearts or to Hibs, who will also fancy themselves in the final. But whereas from Rangers' point of view, it is about making sure that doesn't happen, about trying to prevent that.
You touched on it there. A lot could rest with Rangers certainly on the result of tonight, isn't it? They either come in with a spring in their step or feeling, as you say, that they've got something to salvage. And I don't know, but Celtic can't control that or affect that. But they are heading into this semi-final in the best shape. They've gone to Ibrox, they've won, they've played arguably one of their best games of the season. And, everything from a Celtic point of view is the way they would have wanted it, Alison, heading into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you've seen is what he said he was aiming to do.
Yeah.
Ange Postecoglou said repeatedly, I try and time the season that my players peak going into the latter weeks of the campaign. And I think essentially that is what you've seen through recent performances. I think Celtic have improved as the season has gone on. I think following the winter break, there were wins. Obviously, the performances were good, but maybe narrow. There was a lot of 1-0s. There was a few 2-1s. Eking out results, and you're thinking big goals that came late in games. Whereas what you've seen really in the last 5 or 6 weeks is an acceleration in terms of just how they've played. There's been much more aggression. I think winning comfortably and really swatting teams aside, like as he did with St Johnstone at the weekend, scoring a lot of goals. There's a belief about the side, and also you saw a different side too. You saw the resilience of the side at Ibrox a couple of weeks back when they played and maybe had to endure in that second half. So I think what you're seeing just now is a team who certainly have the belief about them. They are playing like champions elect. That's what you would have to say. And I think that counts substantially when you're going into a game of some Sunday's magnitude, that you have that level of confidence and belief.
What struck me about both those games that you mentioned, Alison, and the way Celtic played, they were very comfortable, even defending at Ibrox. They looked pretty strong and they looked as if they could repel, and they did repel everything that Rangers threw at them. And then on Saturday, it was 3-0 at half-time. The game was done and dusted, but they came out in the second half and they didn't stop. They went for more goals. The substitutes that came on made one hell of an impact. And as you say, that's everything that Ange is speaking about coming to fruition.
Yeah, I thought it was relentless. I think that's what you'd have to say. It was a fairly relentless performance, and I think there would have been so much for him to be pleased about in terms of the attitude. I think what you saw there was no complacency, no one resting their laurels, no one just stepping back and saying the game's won. I think it just showcased all the attributes that he has spoken about verbally, that he said right at the very beginning of his Celtic tenure that was what he was about. That game really brought them all to the fore.
Yeah, people are now talking about Celtic, aren't they, and the football that he's brought and the way and the style that they're playing. And
I think they enjoy it. I think supporters enjoy it. I think players probably love to play with that, with a relative freedom, with an energy, with a tempo. You can just sense that there feels to be a sense of enjoyment within the squad. And I think so much of that just comes from winning games. You're winning games, it's all really that matters. And that lends itself to a relaxation, if you like, within the squad. And you can really go and just focus on playing to your strengths. And I think Celtic's strengths are very much in an attacking sense.
Now, myself, yourself and Sean will be on the briefing tomorrow. We'll talk about lineups, etc., and players coming in and players losing out, but we'll touch upon that and have a big, massive game preview tomorrow. But as I say, excuse me, sorry, it's a weekend that everybody's looking forward to, Alison, isn't it? It's Hearts and Hibs on a Saturday, Celtic Rangers on a Sunday. Everything that's good about Scottish football rolled into 2 days to see the finalists for the final prize of the season. It's mouth-watering, to be honest.
Yeah, it's an attractive weekend. I think you would like to hope it will be a spectacle in both games. I think certainly they seem like mouth-watering ties. I think there'll be all eyes on Hampden this weekend, and I think it'll be exciting. I think it's exciting for supporters, it's exciting for players, it's exciting for guys like us who go and follow it, and because there's tension involved in the games and there's tension involved in the outcomes, and that always creates a particular kind of atmosphere.
And I think from a Celtic persuasion, to be in with a chance of a potential treble at this stage of the season was beyond your wildest dreams back in June when Ange Postecoglou was unveiled, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think in the chaos of last season, I think there was a sense almost this time a year ago that supporters might have been content to see progress being made. I'm not sure that's entirely true. I think anyone who takes a Celtic job knows that the demands become immediate. I think success is just a given. I think when you don't win anything, I think it becomes very, very difficult to sustain anything, even if there is signs of progress. So I think, but at the same time, what I would say is I don't think anyone would have envisaged Celtic being in the right shape to go and push for another treble. I think people would have been delighted if there had been a suggestion that they would be 6 points clear at this point of this stage of the season, and on a sequence of results that now stretches to 33 games unbeaten in a domestic sense.
Well, we'll ramp it up big time tomorrow, Alison. We'll wrap it up here, and the three amigos will reconvene tomorrow. We'll talk about it all over again. But as you can see at the bottom, I'll just direct you again. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. I always get that wrong. You're in the chance of winning a £100 gift card, and it's £1 for 2 months for some top quality journalism and some stuff from myself. There you go. Alison, always enjoy your contribution. Thanks very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Take care.
All the best, guys. Have a good day.